Good morning, spiritual companions. We are reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Chapter 5, The Master and Vijay Goswami, Thursday, December 14th, 1882. It was afternoon. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on his bed after a short noonday rest. Vijay, Balaram M., and a few other devotees were sitting on the floor with their faces toward the Master. They could see the sacred river Ganges through the door. Since it was winter, all were wrapped up in warm clothes. Vijay had been suffering from colic and had brought some medicine with him. Vijay was a paid preacher in the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, but there were many things about which he could not agree with the Samaj authorities. He came from a very noble family of Bengal, noted for its piety and other spiritual qualities. Advaita Goswami, one of his remote ancestors, had been an intimate companion of Sri Chaitanya. Thus, the blood of a great lover of God flowed in Vijay's veins. As an adherent of the Brahmo Samaj, he no doubt meditated on the formless Brahman, but his innate love of God, inherited from his distinguished ancestors, had merely been waiting for the proper time to manifest itself in all its sweetness. That is why Vijay was irresistibly attracted by the God-intoxicated state of Sri Ramakrishna and often sought his company. He listened to the Master's words with great respect, and they danced together in an ecstasy of divine love. It was a weekday. Generally, devotees came to the Master in large numbers on Sundays. Hence, those who wanted to have intimate talks with him visited him on weekdays. A boy named Vishnu, living in Aryadhara, had recently committed suicide by cutting his throat with a razor. The talk turned to him. Master, I felt very badly when I heard of the boy's passing away. He was a pupil in a school and used to come here. He often said to me that he couldn't enjoy worldly life. He had lived with some relatives in the western provinces and at that time used to meditate in solitude in the meadows, hills, and forests. He told me he had visions of many divine forms. Perhaps this was his last birth. He must have finished most of his duties in his present birth. The little that had been left undone was perhaps finished in this one. A devotee said, I am frightened to hear of the suicide. Master, suicide is a heinous sin, no doubt. A man who kills himself must return again and again to this world and suffer its agony. But I don't call it suicide if a person leaves his body after having the vision of God. There is no harm in giving up one's body that way. After attaining knowledge, some people give up their bodies. After the gold image has been cast in the clay mould, you may either preserve the mold or break it. Many years ago, a young man of about 20 used to come to the temple garden from Baranagar. His name was Gopal Sen. In my presence, he used to experience such intense ecstasy that Hriday had to support him for fear he might fall to the ground and break his limbs. That young man touched my feet one day and said, Sir, I shall not be able to see you anymore. Let me bid you goodbye. A few days later, I learnt that he had given up his body. Sri Ramakrishna began to describe worldly people. Master, bound creatures, entangled in worldliness, will not come to their senses at all. They suffer so much misery and agony, they face so many dangers, and yet they will not wake up. The camel loves to eat thorny bushes. The more it eats the thorns, the more the blood gushes from its mouth. Still, it must eat thorny plants and will not give them up. The man of worldly nature suffers so much sorrow and affliction, but he forgets it all in a few days and begins his old life over again. Suppose a man has lost his wife, or she has turned unfaithful. Lo, he marries again. Or take the instance of a mother. Her son dies, and she feels bitter grief. But after a few days, she forgets all about it. The mother, so overwhelmed with sorrow a few days before, now attends to her toilette and puts on her jewelry. A father becomes bankrupt through the marriage of his daughters, yet he goes on having children year after year. People are ruined by litigation, yet they go to court all the same. There are men who cannot feed the children they have, who cannot clothe them or provide decent shelter for them, yet they have more children every year. Again, the worldly man is like a snake trying to swallow a mole. The snake can neither swallow the mole nor give it up. The bound soul may have realized that there is no substance to the world, that the world is like a hog plum, only stone and skin, but still he cannot give it up and turn his mind to God. I once met a relative of Keshab Sen, 50 years old. He was playing cards, as if the time had not yet come for him to think of God. There is another characteristic of the bound soul. If you remove him from his worldly surroundings to a spiritual environment, he will pine away. The worm that grows in filth feels very happy there. It thrives in filth. It will die if you put it in a pot of rice. All remained silent. Vijay, what must the bound soul's condition of mind be in order to achieve liberation? Master, he can free himself from attachment to woman and gold if, by the grace of God, he cultivates a spirit of strong renunciation. What is this strong renunciation? One who has only a mild spirit of renunciation says, well, all will happen in the course of time. Let me now simply repeat God's name. But a man possessed of a strong spirit of renunciation feels restless for God, as a mother feels for her child. A man of strong renunciation seeks nothing but God. He regards the world as a deep well and feels as if he were going to be drowned in it. He looks on his relatives as venomous snakes. He wants to fly away from them, and he goes away too. He never says to himself, let me first make some arrangement for my family, and then I shall think of God. He has great inward resolution. Let me tell you a story about strong renunciation. At one time, there was a drought in certain part of the country. The farmers began to cut long channels to bring water to their fields. One farmer was a man of stubborn determination. He took a vow that he would not stop digging until the channel connected his field with the river. He set to work. The time came for his bath, and his wife sent their daughter to him with oil. Father, said the girl, it is already late. Rub your body with oil and take your bath. Go away, thundered the farmer. I have too much to do now. It was past midday, and the farmer was still at work in his field. He didn't even think of his bath. Then his wife came and said, why haven't you taken your bath? The food is getting cold. You overdo everything. You can finish the rest tomorrow, or even today after dinner. The farmer scolded her furiously and ran at her, spade in hand, crying, what? Have you no sense? There's no rain, the crops are dying. What will the children eat? You'll all starve to death. I have taken a vow not to think of bath and food today before I bring water to my field." The wife saw his state of mind and ran away in fear. Through a whole day's back-breaking labor, the farmer managed by evening to connect his field with the river. Then he sat down and watched the water flowing into the field with a murmuring sound. His mind was filled with peace and joy. He went home, called his wife, and said to her, "Now give me some oil and prepare me a smoke." With serene mind he finished his bath and meal, retired to bed, and snored to his heart's content. The determination he showed is an example of strong renunciation. Now, there was another farmer who was also digging a channel to bring water to his field. His wife, too, came to the field and said to him, "It's very late. Come home. It isn't necessary to overdo things." The farmer didn't protest much, but put aside his spade and said to his wife, "Well, I'll go home since you ask me to." All laugh. That man never succeeded in irrigating his field. This is a case of mild renunciation. As without strong determination, the farmer cannot bring water to his field, so also without intense yearning, a man cannot realize God. To Vijay, why don't you come here now as frequently as before? Vijay, sir, I wish to very much, but I am not free. I have accepted work in the Brahmo Samaj. Master, it is woman and gold that bind man and rob him of his freedom. It is woman that creates the need for gold. For woman, one man becomes the slave of another, and so loses his freedom. Then he cannot act as he likes. The priests in the temple of Govindaji at Jaipur were celibates at first, and at that time they had fiery natures. Once the king of Jaipur sent for them, but they didn't obey him. They said to the messenger, "Ask the king to come here and see us." After consultation, the king and his ministers arranged marriages for them. From then on, the king didn't have to send for them. They would come to him of themselves and say, "Your Majesty, we have come with our blessings. Here are the sacred flowers from the temple. Please accept them." They themselves came to the palace, for now they always wanted money for one thing or another: the building of a house, the rice-eating ceremony of their babies, or the rituals connected with the beginning of their children's education. To Vijay, you yourself perceive how far you have gone down by being a servant of others. Again, one finds that people with many university degrees, scholars with their vast English education, accept service under their English masters and are daily trampled under their boots. The one cause of all this is woman. They have married and set up a gay fair with their wives and children. Now they cannot go back, much as they would like to. Hence all these insults and humiliations, all this suffering from slavery. Once a man realizes God through intense dispassion, he is no longer attached to woman. Even if he must lead the life of a householder, he is free from fear of woman and attachment to her. Suppose there are two magnets, one big and the other small. Which one will attract the iron? The big one, of course. God is the big magnet. Compared to him, woman is a small one. What can woman do? A devotee, Sir, shall we hate women then? Master, he who has realized God does not look upon a woman with the eye of lust, so he is not afraid of her. He perceives clearly that women are but so many aspects of the Divine Mother. He worships them all as the Mother herself. To Vijay, come here now and then. I like to see you very much. Vijay, I have to do my various duties in the Brahmo Samaj. That is why I can't always come here, but I shall visit you whenever I find it possible. Master to Vijay, the task of a religious teacher is indeed difficult. One cannot teach men without a direct command from God. People won't listen to you if you teach without such authority. Such teaching has no force behind it. One must first of all attain God through spiritual discipline or some other means. Thus armed with authority from God, one can deliver lectures. Vijay, don't the teachings of the Brahmo Samaj bring men salvation? Master, how is it ever possible for one man to liberate another from the bondage of the world? God alone, the creator of this world-bewitching Maya, there is no other refuge but that great teacher, Satchitananda. How is it ever possible for men who have not realized God or received his command, and who are not strengthened with divine strength, to save others from the prison house of the world? One day, as I was passing the Panchavati on my way to the pine grove, I heard a bullfrog croaking. I thought it must have been seized by a snake. After some time, as I was coming back, I could still hear its terrified croaking. I looked to see what was the matter and found that a water snake had seized it. The snake could neither swallow it nor give it up, so there was no end to the frog's suffering. I thought that it had been seized by a cobra. It would have been silenced after 3 croaks at the most. As it was only a water snake, both of them had to go through this agony. A man's ego is destroyed after 3 croaks, as it were, if he gets into the clutches of a real teacher. But if the teacher is an unripe one, then both the teacher and the disciple undergo endless suffering. The disciple cannot get rid either of his ego or of the shackles of the world. If a disciple falls into the clutches of an incompetent teacher, he does not attain liberation.